When it comes to Inkscape, you can do a lot with text, from wrapping text around a corner of an image, or maybe even just flowing text into a frame. Well, today, I'm going to show you how to do both. Hello my friends and welcome back to another video. Rob here from Button Press Graphics, and today I'm going to be showing you two different methods to edit your text. One is how to wrap your text around a corner on an image, or even if you just wanted to do it by hand. The second is how to flow text within a shape, like you can see right here. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, as you can see on screen, there are two different examples of how to do this. The first one is this one, how I can wrap text around a corner of a building. The second is how you can flow a lengthy bit of text into a specific shape. So first, I'm going to concentrate on how you can wrap text around a corner, just like this. Now, as you can see on screen, I've imported a picture that I took from pexels.com. Pexels is a library of free images that you can use within your project, and I just imported this one here. So as you can see, this is just an image file, but say I wanted to wrap some text around the corner of this image. Well, first I'm going to need my text. So I'm going to come over to the text editor tool, click on this, and then click anywhere within your project to start typing. Now I have my text, we just need to open up the text editor so I can actually edit the text and make it a little bit bigger and choose the font that I need. So I'm going to come up to the top toolbar and select this letter T. This will bring up our text editor, which looks a little bit like this. Now, as you can see, my last selection was me using the Play font. I'm going to change it to bold to make it nice and thick, and then I'm going to hit apply. Now I have the text how I would like it. I need to go to my select tool, which can be found on the left hand toolbar, and I'm going to increase the size. Now, when it comes to this method, you're going to need to use it as an object, and at the moment it is just a text. So in order to change that, we are going to first use the text tool again on the left hand side toolbar, and I'm going to get the alignment central. Now I'm going to go to path, object to path. It is no longer a text object. It is now a path, but it is also a group. So we need to ungroup it, and this will separate it into its separate lines. Now I'm going to go back to my select tool, click off the canvas so I can deselect everything and just select the bottom. I'm now going to drag it up slightly, and I've got snapping turned on at the moment. That's getting in the way, so I'm just going to turn it off, but I will need it later. And now that I brought it up so it's covering the middle line, I'm just going to highlight all three of them and go to my alignment menu. Now, in order to open the align and distribute menu, you need to come up to this button on the top toolbar. Select that. And now with all three of them selected, I'm going to select this button here, which is going to even the vertical gaps between them. And as you can see, now we have it perfect. Now I am also going to use the align and distribute menu to make sure that this is in the middle of the image. So by selecting all of them and then holding Shift and selecting the image, I can center it up so it is perfectly central. Now I'm going to deselect everything again and just select the text, and then we're going to go to Path Union. Now it is one complete object. Now in order to split this down the center where the corner in the picture is, you will need to separate it into two parts. Now you could try using one of the path commands, but I will show you what might happen if you try to do this. Say you wanted to keep this half and split it down the middle. By using the select tool, if you select both of them and then try and use something like path and cut path, as you can see, it doesn't work as intended. And even when you turn the fill color back on, all of the areas within the middle of each of the letters, like the O's, the R's, the D's, the A's, that's going to have a separate part. There is an easier way of going around it. So I've just undone everything, and now I'm going to select the text and I'm going to go to my path effects. If you haven't got the path effects menu open already, you can find it by going to path, scrolling down and selecting path effects. This will bring open this menu here, and by clicking the arrow that points downwards, you will get a list of all the different path effects that you can use. Today we're going to be going to the generate section and we're going to be selecting slice. Now as you can see, if I zoom in slightly, the default slice will go in the center right here, but you can edit exactly where it cuts. So go to your node tool, and even though you can see all the nodes from the different letters, amongst all them in the middle, if you zoom in, you can see them a lot better. You will have 3 nodes like this. 1, 2, 3. What you need to do is take this node at the top, at the corner of the bounding box, hold Control, and you can slide it over. Slide it to where you want it, and then come down to the bottom node and do exactly the same. And there we go. We now have where we want it to cut. Now that we have the position correct, we can go to Path, Object to Path. And if I use my select tool, as you can see, we now have the 2 objects. Now there are a couple of different ways that you can go about doing this next part. You could use the 3D box tool. You could manipulate one of the boxes from the rectangle tool and then use perspective envelope path effect to snap it to where you would like. But for this one, I'm just going to do it by eye. Now with one of them selected, I'm going to select it again to get the rotation handles up. Hold Shift and then click on the arrow at the side, and then you can move it without the center moving as well. I'm going to eyeball it to try and get the top edge going across here to be symmetrical and parallel to this one. Once I've got this parallel or as close to it, I can then use the other side, do the same, get the rotation handles, hold Shift and drag this down. And now, as you can see, we now have our text going around the corner. Now if you like, you can also highlight them both and use your fill and stroke menu, which can be found right here on the top toolbar, and then turn the opacity down slightly so you can start getting all of the details going through the text. Or you can use the different blend modes. I suggest playing around with it to get your best look. You can even add a texture on top if you would like. But that is pretty much how to do it. The next thing to show you is how you can flow text into any predetermined object. Now, as you can see on screen, I just made a hexagon with the polygons tool. The polygons tool can be found right here on the left hand side toolbar. I created that. Then I used the text editor to create the text. I just used the lorem ipsum text for this because it's just a good filler text, and that way I can just have a load of random text to show you exactly how it works. Now, as you can see on screen, this is one that I made earlier, which is just very simple. I created this box here. I used a dynamic offset to shrink the size so it wasn't meeting the very edge of this picture. And then I just added the lorem ipsum text. Now I'm going to do a different design just to show you how easy it is to create a design like this. And if I was to turn off the stroke for this object, as you can see, the text all flows brilliantly. So how did I do it? Well, I'll show you. Now, as you can see on screen, I've just brought in another picture from Pexels. This one is the same two colors, but with a pair of headphones in the center. Now, for this kind of design, you would need big, thick text, like a heading on one side, and you would need lots of other information, small text, on the other. So how would you do it when there is an object in the center? First, we will need our pen tool. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go around the object in the middle, the part of the image that we do not want to cover. Now, as I'm doing this, you do not need to be perfect at all. You do not even need to have the object matching with the curvature. You just need it to be very, very close. Now, once you're complete, you will have something that looks like this. You will have an object that completely surrounds the object on your picture that you do not want to go over. With that selected, we can now use a dynamic offset, because if we try to flow the text with the object as it is now, all of the text would match right up to the object that we don't want to cover. And I want a little bit of a gap, a buffer away from this object. So using the dynamic offset is the best way of doing this. And now I'm going to change the color so it's easier to see. And what I'm going to do is also lower the opacity. So I'm going to come back to my fill and stroke menu and just slide the opacity down until I can see the object underneath, just like that. Now with that done, I'm going to come to Path, scroll down to Dynamic Offset, and then I'm going to come to my Nodes tool until I get this little diamond here. Now I'm just going to click and drag this until I get a decent gap around the outside of it, like that. That's about right. And now with that done, I am going to go to Path, Object to Path to finalize. Now with that finalized, I'm going to come to my Squares and Rectangles tool. Now I'm going to need to turn snapping back on. So I'm going to come up to the top right corner and turn snapping on. And then starting from the top left corner, I'm going to click and drag until it matches like so. And then I am going to do that again from the opposite side and create one for the opposite side of the image. Now I'm going to also change the color of these two as well, like so. So it's easier for me to differentiate between all of the objects. And while I'm here, I'm going to also drop this down until it's underneath this object. And there we go, we now have our two rectangles at the back and the object in front. Now for this object, I am going to right click, duplicate, because we're going to need two of them. Now with that one duplicated, I am going to hold shift, select this shape here and go to path, difference. And then I'm going to do that again, select the center shape, come to the other side, hold shift, select that, path, difference. Now what that has done has created two shapes with the object that we created earlier cut out. But now we have both frames that we can flow our text into. Now before we actually move on to the text and fitting it to these objects, it is worth mentioning that the top is where the text will start, the bottom is where it will finish, depending on the length of your text. So now if I was to add text into this box, it would always start at the top. So if I show you exactly what I mean, if I go to my text and I write a simple message, now with my text created, I'm going to go back to my text editor, change the font, and then I can even increase the size. But I want this to be aligned on the right hand side. So if we go back to our text tool on the left hand toolbar, we can come to this option here. You can align this with the left edges, the middle, the right edges, and this bottom one will always do block text. The quick explanation for block text is it will take away all of the gaps at the end of each line by stretching out the spaces from the words on that line. But today we're going to need the right side. Now if I was to flow this text into your frame, you will see something happen. Now what I did there is just selected the text, held shift, selected the box that I want to flow it into, and now I'm going to go to text, flow into frame. And as you can see, it goes right up at the top on the right hand side because that's the alignment that I chose. But if you want this to be lower, then you need to shift it. And if you shift it, it will shift like this. Now that is a problem. Say you just want the title to be in the center. So now if I undo and I move the text out of the way, what I want to do is create this box smaller so the top edges of the text, this top line here, is lined up with the top of this headset. So what I'm going to do is create another box. Go from the top, and again I'm going to turn snapping off and go from the top of the headset, create a box, and then hold shift, select the other box and go to path, intersection. And as you can see, it has now created a much smaller box. Now if I select the text again, hold shift, select the box that we've created and go to text, flow into frame. As you can see, it is now way better. Now once you have the text in the place that you want it to be, you can increase the size as you see fit. Just by selecting it and going back to your text tool, you have the options on the properties toolbar at the top. So you can increase or decrease the text size as you see fit. You can even increase or decrease the bounding box. You can also do all of this via your text editor on the right hand side. So if you want to add, say, 250, you can then apply, and that's obviously a little bit too big, so let's go 220. Still a bit too big. How about 200? And there we go. Now that we have it set into a place that we like, we can go to our select tool, select the box that we actually flowed the text into, and you can safely delete it. And as I zoom out a little, as you can see, we now have the text flowing exactly where we wanted it. Now, if you want to match the same width, you can just create another box, but if not, you can just select the shape, add the text, and then flow into this shape. For this one, I am just going to add text, and I'm going to use the lorem ipsum text. I've just added the lorem ipsum text 3 times, and now using exactly the same font but regular, I'm going to apply, and then I'm going to use my select tool to hold shift, select the bounding box, and then text flow into frame. And as you can see, there is still way more room. But if you use your text tool, you can even decrease the bounding box, like so. And you can even add more text without a problem. Now, do you remember what I said about the alignments? If we zoom in here, as you can see, there are lots of little gaps before the next line starts. Well, we can come to this tool, select the block text, and as you can see, it is now a straight line where all the text ends at the same point. And that is simply just because of the gaps in between each of the words has been increased or decreased, so you can match the edge just like this. And now again, because we have done exactly what we wanted to do using the select tool, we can select the box that we flowed the text into and just hit delete. And what you're left with is something that looks like that. So that's it, my friends. That is how you can wrap text around a corner or flow text around a shape. Did you know that you can become a member of the Button Press Graphics YouTube channel? Well, now you do. You will get a lot of added benefits, and you will directly support the channel, enabling me to make much better content in the future. Also, you can send in your artwork into the Creative Corner. This is a regular section where I will showcase your work in a future video. But for now, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I'm going to bid you all a fond farewell, and I will see you next time.